It's Saturday the 6th of October and I'm back in the garage. As you can see, the front end is exactly where we left it last time, so that being mostly stripped down. I need to order the fork oil seals before I'm going to get involved with that job. I might do the headstock bearings today, we'll see. What else have I been doing? I've been going up and down with a bit of degreaser and just cleaning up the frame just to see what it actually looks like without all the grime on it, and it's pretty good. There's one or two places where I might just touch it up with paint, but for the most part it's pretty good. I have taken off some of the plastics, so the pair valve cover there. I took off the plastics at the back here, this bracket, this light, and cleaned those up. I've painted them with rubber bumper paint just to make them look a little bit more presentable. This bracket here was painted with just black masonry paint actually, and I've also done the horn, which is drying as well, so that's got black masonry paint on it. As you can see, I've got some indicators. These were off an old bike of mine, just had these lying around, so for now I've put these on. Yet to wire them up, but they are there ready to go, and that is about it for now. So yeah, just cleaning, tarting things up a little bit, getting ready to order some parts, and thinking about maybe doing the headstock bearings. I'm actually having to focus my mind a little bit because as I've been going around and cleaning things up, my temptation is to start taking a lot of things off, and it's taking all my willpower to remember that this is not a restoration. I'm not trying to build a show bike, I am trying to build a budget adventure bike, so aesthetically it doesn't matter if the engine is not perfect. I did give it a little wire brush. I was thinking about taking it out and painting it, but actually it doesn't need painting, it's just an aesthetic thing, and that's not the point of this this whole project. So probably just going to leave some stuff like that. I just have to concentrate on not taking bits off. Getting carried away with myself. In one of the earlier videos, me and Kieran removed the brake lever, brake master cylinder and caliper. If you remember that video, you will remember that the screws on the top of the brake master cylinder were chewed to smithereens. So I've just been having a look at that. It is carefully placed in a vise. I've been trying to get the screws out. I've managed to get both of them out. I used a different technique for each one, so I just wanted to talk you through that. On the left hand side here, it wasn't too bad to start with. It wasn't great, but there was something there to get hold of. So what I used is a screwdriver. I placed the screwdriver where it should go, and then I tapped the end of the screwdriver with a hammer a few times. Tapping like that helps to sometimes shock the rust and corrosion off the threads of the screw. It also helps to seat the screwdriver in the top of the screw. So after doing that, I very carefully started to turn the screw, and it did come free. So that was that side. The other side, if you remember, was completely chewed up. There was no way I was getting a screwdriver in that, so I've had to use a slightly different technique. What I've done on that side is I have used, trying to find the size of this drill bit. I used a drill bit anyway, of about this size, and I drilled into the centre somewhere. Once I drilled into the centre a little bit, I used one of these, which is a sort of reverse thread screw extractor. So what you do is place that into this hole that you've just made and screw anti-clockwise, and in doing that the extractor thing here bites into the screw and then starts to turn the screw in the anti-clockwise direction to unturn it. So you can see that's what's happening now. It is turning that screw. So both of those screws are now free, which means I can probably start to dismantle that, take off the brake line, the brake caliper, maybe have a look at the brake pads. Trying to decide whether to do that now or to do the headstock bearings. Okay, I've decided to do the caliper. I had already got this over on the bench, so I figured I may as well do that. I am going to separate the parts, the brake master cylinder, the line and the caliper. dismantle the caliper, take out the brake pads, see how they look, and decide what to do next. So I'm going to put this in the vise now so I can get a little bit of leverage, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so here we are. The brake caliper is in the vise, as you can see, and I'm going to remove the fluid line here. This is a 12mm fit in here. I don't know if you can see that, but I am using a 6-sided 12mm socket, so as to get a good grip on that without potentially stripping the edges off it. So 12mm. I'll let you in on a little secret. I have pre-loosened this, so this should be quite easy. There we are. Yeah, it was quite easy. It wasn't the first time around, but as ever, just take your time. I used a little bit of WD-40. So I'm going to take this out now, and then I've got a little mess tin here, which I'm going to hopefully drain the brake fluid into. So there's the bolt and the washer. Now I'm going to pick up the master cylinder and hold it up, and maybe yeah, it's just starting to come out of there. I'll just put that down to one side for now. I'll do that in a bit. I'll probably take the top off the reservoir. What we have there then, we've got, there's a little washer in there, and then there's this union bolt with another washer. So you've got a washer, then the fitting from the hose, another washer, and then this bolt in the top. So taking those out, should be able to remove this from the vise and maybe tip a bit of that fluid out. Yeah, that'll have to do for now. We're going to take the pads out. So for this one, there are two Allen key heads on the back there. They're for a 5mm Allen key. Again, I have pre-loosened these, but yeah, the 5mm bolts just there come out, and that gives you that right there. That's one of the two that's holding this side brake pad in. You can see it's quite rusty. There's quite a bit of corrosion on there, so I'll clean that up. I'll clean the threads up, I'll clean the pin up itself, because if they get stuck in, then you have a real bollock of a job trying to get the pads out next time. So that's one. Do the other one. So there we are. There's the other one in the same condition. What that means now is you can pull that pad out. Don't know if you can see that. There's some meat left on there, but I am going to replace these anyway. So that's that one. This one just pulls out also. You can see that's where the piston contacts the back of it. Again, there's a little bit of meat on there, but replacing it anyway. So in there you can see the piston now. That's what pushes against the back of the pad. And I'm going to move on. Right, apologies. Just had to get the compressor fired up, and it's really noisy, so you didn't really want to hear that. I'm going to try and take the piston out of the caliper now, and the way to do that is to fire compressed air into this hole here. So what I'm going to do, I've got a piece of cardboard, and I'm just going to put that here, if that makes sense, so that when the piston comes out, it doesn't just shoot through that gap there and fire off into the distance. So I've got a little bit of cardboard there, keeping my fingers well clear. Hold it that way. Keeping my fingers clear. I've got the compressor here. I'm just going to fire some air down into there, which should then drive the piston out of the caliper. You'll probably hear it. Let's have a look. Did that go? No? Okay, try again. There we go. That got it. So yeah, they usually go with quite a pop, but you can see that the piston has been fired out of the caliper. So what that means now is I can have a look at that, I can clean that up if needs be, maybe think about replacing it if it's too far gone. Clean around here, clean all this business, and then start putting it back together. So I'm going to have a look at this now. Here we go then. I have stripped down and cleaned the caliper. What I did was obviously fire the piston out and then get some brake cleaner and sprayed out down in there. There are a couple of rubber seals that go in there. There's a fairly thickish square cut seal, and there's a groove for that down there, sort of recessed into the caliper there, and then there's a thinner square cut seal which goes nearer the top. So I've taken those out and checked those to see if they're serviceable. They're not perfect, nothing about this caliper is perfect, but I do believe that it is all entirely serviceable. So the square cut seals are fine. The caliper itself looks to be fine. Again, it's lost a little bit of paint along the way, but it will work fine. What I've done, I've taken the bleed nipple out of here. That was a little bit sticky, so I used this again 6-sided 8mm long reach socket to sort of ease that out slowly, moving backwards and forwards so as to break any corrosion that was in there. So I've taken that out, I've cleaned all the threads up, I've blown compressed air down the bottom of it to clear the channel out, which pops out at the pointed end. So I can put that back in now. I'll tighten that up in a bit. I can start to put the seals back in, and we've got the piston itself to go in also. And then until I get some new ones, I'll just put these old brake pads back in for now. I've also cleaned up the little slide pinny things there, the brake pad retaining pins. I'll grease those up and put those back in. So I think, although nothing's perfect, we should probably get away without any parts this time. Right, let's have a bash at putting this thing back together. I'm going to start off with the square cut seal, that's the thicker one. That is lubricated with fresh brake fluid, and I'm just going to put that in there by hand, try and fill that into place. Right, there we are. That is the square cut seal in there. A little bit fiddly to do, but perfectly manageable. Next I'm going to do the dust seal. Again, I'm going to lubricate that in brake fluid and then get that to sit in that top groove just there. Right, that one's in. That was even fiddlier than the other one. Next step then, piston. I did clean that up. As I've mentioned earlier, it's not perfect, and nothing about this caliper is perfect, but I think it'll probably do for now. So I've just got some brake fluid on my fingers there. I'm just lubricating that, and then the idea is to slot that back squarely into the caliper. Right, trying to get the piston into the caliper. Supposed to just push it in. Pig of a job, won't go in. I've just damaged the seal, so I'm going to have to buy some new seals and finish this job another day.